Hey guys, this is Nick from Technique Reviews. Today I'll be reviewing the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S. At the moment I'm busy sitting in sunny Beijing, just a couple hundred meters from my own apartment building. Yes, I live in Beijing and I did a couple videos for you guys showing reviews on the likes of the S7 and the LG G5 about 2 years ago. I've got quite a few good hits on the Huawei P9 Plus that I did, and I've been silent ever since. For that part, I just want to apologize because I really was getting on quite the roll, and I thought I'd bust a rhyme and hit it with you guys today with the brand new Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S. The only thing that I could say that makes me feel a little bit sad as I come to you today after using this device for around a month is that Xiaomi have already launched a Mi 8. The brand new device has all the same specs with an AMOLED panel on it. It makes me feel slightly sad because my device was only their top dog for a merely 2 months. So let's see how this review packs in with our Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S. Enjoy!
So let's move on to the external look of the device. We have the beautiful black ceramic designed by Xiaomi. At the back on the left hand side we have the dual SIM tray. At the top we have the 2 antenna lines with the mic, and on the right of the device we have the volume rocker as well as the lock button. At the bottom we have a USB Type-C 2.0 port with a single firing speaker, and we have a wonderful 5.99-inch display, which is sadly only IPS thanks to Xiaomi, but in daylight things are pretty good with the brightness set to max. So yeah, that is it for the display in the daylight and the wonderful beautiful body of the Mi Mix 2S. Look at that back.
Okay guys, so moving away from this unique body of the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S, let's take a look at that beautiful screen. So this is indeed a 5.99-inch IPS. Yes, IPS, sadly no AMOLED display, but it is an IPS display with a whopping 81.9% screen to body ratio. Now that might not seem very impressive, but what Xiaomi have done is they've given you the illusion that it is actually more. There is no display notch, which I think 80% of people out there will be happy about. No ugly display notch over there, so no need to cover it up. But unfortunately, there is quite the hefty chin over here. And like I said before, while you do see the light and proximity sensor and the camera over there, it is only because of the screen guard that I do have on this phone. It is more like that in reality, with a slight indication of the camera down there. So with the phone, this is probably around the rest, which is 18.1% of the remainder of the body, is mainly found in the chin, with very tiny bezels all measuring at the same around the phone, the top and the two sides. We do have a speaker at the top here, which you can vaguely see over there, but it might get to some people because the previous Xiaomi Mi Mix and Mi Mix 2 did not have that. They had the voice recording when you're on a phone going through the vibrations of the screen itself instead of its own speaker, but that has its advantages in the speaker department here as well, which we will get to later on in this review. So when it comes to the screen, it does have a nice big screen, which they claim is an all-screen display. Obviously with the rumors of the new Vivo NEX, that has taken things to the next level with barely any visible bezels along the side or the top, and the chin is probably a third of this chin. This is quite a big chin, but like Xiaomi have designed it, as I said, when you're using the phone you're mainly looking at the top of the phone, you're not really looking at the bottom of it. So when you look at it like this, yes, maybe the chin might bother you, but in other terms I think the thing that might bother most people is the lack of an AMOLED panel. So in daylight it goes perfectly fine, you can actually see everything if the brightness is on max. Because this is an IPS display, as soon as we put it down to half of that, it is kind of okay using in indoors, day-to-day use. It won't hurt your eyes, but if you do want those poppy colors and vivid clarity of playing games and watching videos, it is gonna have to be up to the top, and unfortunately that is going to take a huge knock in the battery part of the video. And talking about battery, this uses less because it does not have Quad HD support. This is a full HD plus panel, which is only 1080 by 2160 pixels. It has the same PPI 403, which a normal 16 by 9 aspect ratio would have, of normal 1080p by 1920, but because of the aspect ratio of 18 by 9, it just ups that pixel count a little bit more because of the Full HD Plus, which makes no difference to the PPI. Talking about brightness, as we said before, sunlight is definitely okay for this phone, even though it is only IPS, although an AMOLED would be better. And coming into that, we also have Gorilla Glass 4 along the top. No Gorilla Glass 4 at the back though, like the new Oneplus 6, but it is ceramic, so in my opinion, it is slightly tougher and less prone to scratching. So yeah, that's it for the display.
Okay, so let's move on from the display part of the phone onto the nitty-gritty hardware, the boring part of review videos. So we'll try to keep this short and simple. Packed in here is the latest flagship Snapdragon 845, which you'll find on the likes of all the top dogs of Samsung and LG and OnePlus alike. We have the 845 couped with an Adreno 630 GPU, which is what truly makes your display shine, depending on what the display resolution is, of course, which we recently got into. But yes, so that is the GPU and CPU chip of this phone. Okay, and there are three different variants of this Mi Mix 2S. We have the 6GB, 64GB variant, which is the bottom of the range variant. You do get most of your value for money in that device, but 64GB is not enough when there is indeed no support for an SD card in this mobile. So I would rather go for the 128GB or 256GB variant. The 128GB variant, which is the one that I have over here, comes with 6GB of RAM, which for me is plenty enough RAM. My laptop has 8GB of RAM, my gaming PC has 16GB of RAM. 6GB of RAM on a cell phone is more than enough. That's why Samsung still stick and LG still stick to the loyal 4GB of RAM or 6GB of RAM variant that everyone seems to be shifting to. 8GB is a bit of an overkill, but it is there if you do want the option. The 8GB variant also comes packed in with a free wireless charger, which we will get into that a little bit later. But if you want to buy that separately, it is relatively cheap and it could be worth it if you're that kind of person. So talking about this phone's variants, I think that if you are purchasing this from anywhere other than mainland China, you should definitely go for the 8GB 256GB variant, not because of the storage or because of the RAM, but because it supports more LTE bands. Yes, so no matter where you go in the world, Xiaomi have said fact, this phone will work anywhere if you get the top dog model. So bear that in mind if you do decide to pull the trigger on this purchase. Okay, so there is in fact dual SIM in this phone. Actually all three variants there's dual SIM, so that's a nice bonus for you that like to travel. With me, I'm staying in mainland China, so I have my Chinese SIM popped in here and my South African SIM popped in here. So I have both SIM cards in here, which is nice and convenient. Not all phones have them, but a lot of phones have different variants which cost quite a bit more if you do want that extra SIM card popped in here, and sometimes they are tricky to find. Now another thing with this phone, it lacks a 3.5mm audio jack, which Samsung have kept and OnePlus have kept conveniently. It does suck, but if you're someone like me, I only use Bluetooth earphones or Bluetooth headphones, so I don't even make use of it, but it does come with a little converter packed in the box with all three variants if you do need to throw in your USB Type-C port to 3.5mm jack so that you can use your wired earphones or wired headphones. Okay, so let's go on to the speaker now. The speaker of this phone, let me come bring it a bit closer to you. There's only a single firing speaker over here, and the single firing speaker is right over there. Nothing on this side like an iPhone. But then again, because Xiaomi have included this speaker up at the top here, it does work as a bit of a dual speaker system, and let me show you. So when we press 5, max volume by the way, so it is coming through this bottom speaker over here, and it's coming through the top two. If I blank this out,
You can still vaguely hear the top, but what I've mainly for vocals mainly. So it's very subtle, very light, but it is there. It gives a little bit more of an atmosphere when it comes to that.
So it comes boosted with all the standard Wi-Fi connections. I'm not going to get into that. That is quite the list. But yes, you have your usual dual band. It also comes with NFC, which is always nice to have in a phone. A lot of cheaper end phones, such as the likes of Vivo, tend to ditch the NFC support because it's just that extra cost that not everybody uses, so it doesn't make a massive impact to your day-to-day, everyday life with the phone. For me, it doesn't make too much of a difference. I mean, I pay for my gas with NFC. I just use a wireless card and tap it at the back, which is quite convenient, but if you don't have that, there are other means of doing it. So it is not there where you need it now, but if you like using your cards to pay when you go to the shop, then by all means, get this phone. You will have no issues with the NFC support. When it comes to Bluetooth, we have Bluetooth 5.0. A lot of cheaper end devices have Bluetooth 4.2. This comes with the latest Bluetooth 5.0, which is always nice to see. And once again, with a budget phone such as this and the likes of Oneplus, which are flagship killers, known as flagship killers, they do not come IP67 or 68 dust or waterproof certified. So do not take this guy to the pool with you. Do not leave him close to it, because I think that even a couple splashes from what I've seen on other people's videos online is that it does suck up water quite well, it absorbs it quite well and destroys your phone. Unlike the Oneplus 6, which recently launched, which doesn't have an official IP rating, but they have tested it and it does withstand water quite well because they have put waterproofing in the phone itself, just without the certification to keep things cheaper. This does not have any waterproofing in the phone. Do not take this close to water. But I found outside in the rain it is okay. So don't stress about that, as long as you don't face your speaker upwards and say, oh god, rain, rain, rain. Okay, so another thing with this phone, and the most important thing when it comes to hardware, is it smashes every single thing you throw at it. It smashes all the benchmarks and was actually at the top for a couple of weeks until OnePlus released their OnePlus 6. And yeah, so hardware wise, you could say that this phone has a lot in it, and it does get kind of boring when you are talking about hardware. So I think I might pack it and I'll see you guys in the next one.
She left the fingerprint sensor for the software, and the main reason for that is because when it comes to scanning your finger, it opens up your software, and the fingerprint sensor is blitz fast. So if you see here, boop, 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 it is fast enough. Maybe not the fastest out there, but it is definitely quick enough. It is not made of ceramic, so don't scratch this guy and test it out, but ceramic is quite good. So talking about the software, the reason why I left the fingerprint sensor is because it also has a function known as face wake. So put my face over here and it unlocks, and as soon as I hit unlock, face, face, no, okay, face and unlock, face and unlock, face and unlock. Okay, it is not the quickest face wake, and it is definitely not secure because it does not have facial technology such as the iPhone X's face unlock does. That actually has sensors embedded at the top of the phone in its disgustingly ugly notch. Sorry, that's my opinion. And that obviously makes things a little bit more secure, but that is because there is no fingerprint scanner in the iPhone X, where this does have one conveniently at the back, which is nice and easy to reach. So talking about this is packed with Android 8.0 Oreo, not 8.1, not sure why, but they're relatively similar. So with Oreo on this, it has Xiaomi have thrown on their usual MIUI 9.5 skin onto this. So this is all MIUI based. This is all Xiaomi. When I opened up the phone, there's not too much bloatware. You'll have your Mi app bloatware. I have a lot more because I am in mainland China, and this is a Chinese ROM version of the phone. So the cool thing with the Chinese ROM version, if you do live in China, is it has Jovi AI smart, sorry, that's Vivo is Jovi, This has its Me AI Smart Assistant. So you flick it to the left and you get all your, this is my favorites of my shopping list, different shortcuts on how to pay, step counter, tells me my football and everything I need to know. It also has detailed things on your deliveries and times, all linked to your cell phone. So the AI works quite well in the software as well. I haven't noticed too much regarding the AI because Xiaomi still have yet to release quite a few things, but with the software, it is quite snappy, as you can see over here. If I slide a notification to the right, I can actually say hide, and then it will say this app's notification won't be shown again. You can change this in settings at any time. So I'll cancel that because I do want these notifications, but it is as easy as that. You don't have to go tinker with settings to change things like that. The settings menu looks pretty much like stock Android. There's no Google on a Chinese ROM version, so I had to get a couple APK files to get a VPN and throw in the Play Store, which works fabulously well. So talking about Google services, the keyboard on this absolutely sucked. I had to throw on the Google keyboard over here to make things a little bit better. And sometimes I just seem to get slightly frustrated with how things work inside this. So if I select this, sometimes it doesn't pop up with the selecting. So I'll do that. Oh, working now. Okay. Is there an update that happened last night I was unaware of? So you see like that over there. Now I cannot drag. Oh, and then it pops up. So I just have some issues with the Android system on here that do bother me a bit. Now, talking about gestures on the software, you can hold all the way up to show all your apps. You can close all your apps like that. Hold up to show your apps, you can go into them, and then you can, to go back, you slide on either the right or you can slide on the left of the device. Okay, so either edge, and wherever you are, if you just do a simple swipe up, it'll take you back to home screen. So if you go into Chrome, simple swipe up, back to home screen. So that is it for the gestures as well. Now you also have scheduled silent mode, which is kind of cool. So on the software, if you press down or up on the volume rocker and you have silent mode off, and you put it on, it will pop up with this. So always 30 minutes, 1 hour. But if you hit settings over here, you can actually do scheduled time on. So for full days of work, I have silent mode automatically turning on from 9 to 8:30 in the evening. So that is quite nifty. They have thrown in quite a few cool things in the phone to make it more enjoyable. Now, this is not iPhone, but in their launch event, all they did the whole time was talk about how they are better than iPhone, which I agree and disagree with, but I do think it's a bit ridiculous how they go a bit crazy with comparing with iPhone all the time. It makes me think that everyone should just buy an iPhone instead of a Xiaomi. But the software is implemented quite nice. There is no app drawer, as you can see, so that's more iPhone-like, but it is less like the likes of Vivo and the likes of Huawei, where their software has up screens such as this to show you different iPhone things with the iPhone dock popping up at the bottom, and they're closer to iOS than this is. So this is actually leaning more towards an Android system than an iOS system, where the others lean more towards an iOS system. So yes, this does mix the two both together quite nicely, but it is still more Android for those Android lovers out there. Now, there is no notch up here, so the thing with the software on the camera department is when you go into your camera, you have to flip it around when you go into portrait mode. So you have to do this every time, but we'll get into that when we get to camera. So the AI is cool, but it is mainly for Chinese mainland people, especially the AI voice assist. Because I don't speak Chinese, I actually cannot give you any opinions based on that. But once you throw in Google on here, you can get Google Assistant, which, as everyone knows, is probably the top dog at the moment, competing with Siri. So AI is cool, but it is mainly for the functionality on the camera, which is still then comes down to your personal preference on how you like photos. So there is a few issues on the phone sometimes with an app freezing and whatnot, but it's nothing that they can't fix. So maybe 5% of the phone, there's an issue with the software, but 95% of it, it is flawless, and everything, it absolutely smashes into the ground. It is blitz fast. So that is it for the software department, guys. Battery time. So let's get into the battery of the phone. We have a 3400 milliamp hour battery. It is couped with a USB Type-C port at the bottom. It is only USB Type-C 2.0, so it doesn't have those speeds when you plug it into your computer and transfer files, but with charging it doesn't matter. So this comes with a standard Quick Charge 3.0, actually standard in new phones, but still some new phones stick to Quick Charge 2.0, such as the latest Samsung Galaxy S9 and S9 Plus. This has Quick Charge 3.0, which some could say is better, some could say is marginally better, but I rate a little bit better for sure. The charging is relatively quick. You'll get a full charge in around an hour and a half to 2 hours of charging it. It is not nearly as impressive as the likes of the Oneplus 6 with its dash charging. So yes, the charging is quite quick. The biggest part of a phone that costs the same as something like a Oneplus, literally exactly the same for the very similar variant, it has wireless charging through a ceramic back. OnePlus throws on a glass back and doesn't offer wireless charging. Xiaomi keep their ceramic back, and yes, it is impressive to say the least that there is wireless charging through a ceramic back. So wireless charging, it does not come with a wireless charger in the box unless you get the biggest variant that there is of the phone, which is the 8GB 256GB model. But yeah, talking about battery, I get around a full 14-hour day of length, going on Google, doing some research, watching some videos, playing a couple of games that I have on my phone, and I normally come home with about 20% battery left after a long 14-hour day. So if you use this non-stop on your phone, I rate you will see about 6 to 7 hours of screen on time, full brightness. Lower that, maybe 8 or 9 hours. So it is packed quite well. I mean, there's no hefty resolution display on here, so nothing to worry about when it comes to battery. You'll definitely get a full day's worth and charge it at night as soon as you come back home. And that's it on battery. Moving on to the camera of the phone, we have a very iPhone X lookalike at the back, as most Android phones are doing. We have a beautiful gold rim around there with a dual lens setup. So in these dual lens setups, we have a 12 megapixel main sensor. Now this has an aperture of 1.8, which is quite good. The lower the better, the lower the wider, which lets in more light for especially low light scenes. We also have 4-axis optical image stabilization on the 12 megapixel main shooter. The secondary one is also a 12 megapixel shooter, but it has an aperture of 2.4, and that is slightly more closed up, and that is because it is mainly for the 2x optical zoom feature, as well as the feature which it has packed in of the portrait mode, which most phones are going for today in use of their dual camera setup, which I would actually prefer if one of the lenses was monochromed, like as seen on the Huawei since the P9. Those monochromed Leica lenses actually do a fantastic job as they collect all the black and white data and put more detail into the full camera shot as they do with the color lens as well. So this has dual pixel phase detection, autofocus, and a dual LED dual tone flash, which is also great. Now if we move on to the front of the camera, we have a 5 megapixel shooter over here, which is down here. This little guy over here looks a bit meshy there because of the screen protector that I do have on it. It has some dust trapped in there. So this 5 megapixel shooter has an aperture of 2.0, so it's kind of in the middle of the back two lenses. And it is only in 1080p, so the recording is only at 1080p, and that will be at 30 frames a second in the front. Where at the back we have a video shooter of 1080p 60 frames a second or 4K, but unfortunately 2160p 4K is only filmed at 30 frames a second, unfortunately for that one. So yes, that is it for the camera, other than the fact that there is slow motion, but the slow motion is only at 120 frames per second at 1080p or a whopping 240 frames a second at 720p, although it is quite a cutback when it comes to quality. The double slowness definitely looks great, which I will show you soon, and it is not on par with the likes of Samsung, which has a 960 FPS at 720p, so that is quite great, but I'll show you those now. So right now, let's take a look at what this phone can produce camera wise. So I'm going to show you some daylight snaps, then some low light snaps, I'm going to show you some selfie snaps, and then I'm going to show you some 1080p recording as well as 4K recording, and then to end it off on a slow-mo clip. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and enjoy. Hey guys, so this is running at 1080p, 60 frames a second. See, the stabilization isn't doing too bad, though the OIS, the optical image stabilization, doesn't look too good when you're actually recording. I know for a fact that it looks a lot better once you rewatch the video later, and that's what counts, right? So yeah, this is 1080p at 60 frames a second. Be cool to have it higher, but 60 frames is just as good as any. So yeah, I'm about to do the same exact video again, but with 4K 30 frames a second. Here we go. And here we go with video number 2. This is now the Mi Mix 2 with shooting at 4K video. Unfortunately, this is only 30 frames a second. Unlike the other major flagships like Samsung and iPhone, going for the 60 frames a second mark at 4K. This only shoots at 30 frames a second, but hence this is half the price of those phones, so don't expect that generally. But this is a very similar video to the previous one. You can see the difference. The stabilization is slightly worse because of the frames, but the details are impeccable. I do think that this looks absolutely breathtaking, and to be honest, it is now 7:15 p.m. in the evening in Beijing, so the lighting conditions are not the best, but it seems to hold its own quite well. So if you for some reason decide to flip to selfie mode and you want to make a video call, sure, you can do that. Just the tap of the button on the screen, but then you will look like this. So Xiaomi sometimes actually indicate in the software that you need to flip the physical phone around so that you can actually have the camera at the top left over here, which can be a proper bummer for those selfie freaks out there, or people that just have their general Skype call or Facebook call. So yeah, bear that in mind when video calling or taking a selfie. It can become a bit of a, Okay, and that's it. There's my finger. And here we go with the front-facing camera. This is only 1080p. This is the video recording on that. I don't expect this to be very impressive. Then again, honestly, who makes a video with a front-facing camera unless you're just one of those crazy socialists? But yeah, this is it.
Okay, so let's wrap this video up with some final thoughts and of course the pricing. Let's actually start with the pricing. So the pricing over here for the bottom of the range model, which is the 6 gigs of RAM, 64 gig storage unit,
that is 3,000 yuan. Now when you convert that directly into USD, you are looking at around $515. So that is half the price of an iPhone X. Yes, it is ridiculous. You get almost everything, and they boast a better camera than the iPhone X, which I'm not too sure about, but the scores that they have on camera benchmarks is insane. And like I said before, in the camera department, it does take some truly incredible pictures. So if you're looking for pictures, this price point doesn't really get much better. Now at 3,300 yuan, which is 515 USD, you can get a phone of the likes of the recently released Oneplus 6. Now the Oneplus 6 that comes in that also comes with 6 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage and no option for a micro SD card slot. So it actually comes down to, do you want more waterproofing? Do you want a better camera? Do you want a selfie camera that is better on the Oneplus, or a selfie camera where you have to flip the phone around to see yourself here? Are you even a selfie person? Do you need wireless charging? If you do, then obviously this. Do you want a phone that looks a bit more premium with no notch? Then definitely this. So moving on from that, the price stays the same as OnePlus when it comes to the 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gig variant, and that comes to 3,600 Chinese RMB, Chinese yuan, and in US dollars that is around $50 more than the base version. So that puts you at about 565 USD. Now that is around the same price as the OnePlus 6. Actually in Chinese mainland it is the same. So the only difference there now is that with the OnePlus 128 gig variant you get the 8 gigs of RAM. With the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S you don't. You get 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs variant. The only one that gets the 8 gigs of RAM on this is the top dog, the 256 gig variant of the phone, but then again that also comes with all the global LTE bands, so you're paying higher not only for storage like OnePlus. When you bump up to the top dog model, that is 4,000 yuan, the same as the 256 gig 8 gigs of RAM 4,000 model of this one. And that sits at about 625 USD on both departments. So this phone cost exactly the same as the OnePlus 6. And a lot of people have been very suspicious about the increase of the OnePlus phone. So is it a huge increase? Not really, but with this phone, the reason why OnePlus decided to increase it slightly is because they are slightly on par. I think that this Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S and the OnePlus 6 are the best Chinese phones that money can buy. And it's just sad how such little people actually know about Xiaomi around the world. Xiaomi is a huge company in China, and not just for their cell phones, but for all of their technology. They make vacuum cleaners and power banks and laptops and everything. OnePlus make phones, and yes, some people think that when it comes to technology, once you specifically design and create only one specific product, it will be better. But I don't think this is the case. Yes, it does not have the AMOLED screen that a OnePlus phone does. Yes, it does not have the notch, which could actually be a good thing, but it has wireless charging. It has a more bezel-less design screen. It is more premium. It has a ceramic backing. I'm not hating on the OnePlus 6 at all. I actually haven't even used one up to date, but seeing videos around the world, OnePlus is a huge brand. I spoke to an American just the other day and told him that OnePlus is a Chinese phone. He didn't believe me. He thought it was an American brand. That just shows you where customer loyalty is at these days. Technology is a huge part of our world that we live in today, and the likes of Xiaomi and OnePlus are making a massive difference to the industry. And I think that Xiaomi has ticked all the right boxes except for just a few. And for a phone at this caliber, for this price point, full points for me. I rate full points except for a few drawbacks, so I'll give this guy around 85% out of 100 for me. So I hope to see you guys in the near future. If you like this video, please thumbs up. If you like it even more than a thumbs up, please subscribe below. I would really love your support. And one more thing, just a tiny little cliffhanger for you guys. For me, especially, I would like to know what you would want me to review first. Would you like me to get my hands on the new OnePlus 6 or the recently announced, coming out on the 23rd of June, Vivo NEX, which is the biggest, baddest pop-up camera, all-screen display with an AMOLED panel that there is. So please let me know in the comments below which one you would like me to review next. I do have to pay for it out of my own pocket. So for now, until I get more subscribers. So keep watching, and I'll see you next time on Technic Reviews. Cheers.